You're listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. I'm your host, Mo, and I love to play and review old video games and a few new games too. If you prefer to read instead of listen, check out my written reviews at retromo.substack.com. In this episode, I'll be sharing my experience with The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time for the N64, released in 1998. And I've scored it 9 out of 10, an amazing game. It's a groundbreaking 3D classic that, unfortunately, hasn't aged so well. I truly loved revisiting Ocarina of Time, but my nostalgia bubble was burst pretty hard when I first walked into Hyrule Field in my most recent playthrough. I hadn't realized how poorly some of these early 3D games have aged. My eyes have been spoiled by modern games. As a kid, 20 plus years ago, I remember the first time I walked into Hyrule Field. I was astonished. I was utterly amazed. I had just walked into a lush, incredible fantasy wonderland full of frightening creatures, lively villages, and majestic castles. Now, after decades of modern gaming, I walked into Hyrule Field and thought, it's so empty. So, some rose-colored glasses are definitely recommended to get full enjoyment out of Ocarina of Time. Even though my recent playthrough wasn't quite as magical as I remember when I was young, is anything though? I still very much enjoyed playing through Ocarina of Time again. Early 3D will always be difficult to go back to now, but I was able to get over myself and enjoy a fantastic Zelda game. It helps to try to take yourself back to 1998. In 98, the 3D spaces seemed so lifelike. This was a world you could interact with more than in other games that just felt like they were filled with a bunch of 3D props. The soundtrack from Koji Kondo is truly legendary. Plus, Ocarina of Time equips you with a fully functioning virtual ocarina, which makes this possibly the first game to incorporate what's called diegetic music as a part of the core gameplay. Ocarina of Time has great dungeons, so many clever puzzles, and solid early 3D gameplay. Even though Z targeting might feel a little weird today, it was super cool in 1998. Side note, Ocarina of Time is way creepier than I remember. That E for Everyone rating from ESRB was pretty generous back then. I remembered the Re-Dead pretty clearly, and Ganondorf spewing green blood, but my preteen brain must have glossed over the Shadow Temple entirely, and the horrifying Dead Hand. So why not a perfect 10? In 1998, Ocarina of Time received absolutely raving reviews. Loads of 10 out of 10s across the board from critics, and gamers were just as obsessed with this game. This game still has one of the highest Metacritic scores of any Nintendo game ever. However, because of the nature of early 3D games like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, these titles have lost a bit of favor in the eyes of modern gamers. It is genuinely difficult for some newer, younger gamers to enjoy these aging games without that thrust of nostalgia to carry them through. And nostalgia did carry me through this game, but I'm glad I stuck it out. This is truly an epic game by 1998 standards. Zelda fans definitely need to give this one a go. Thanks for listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. As always, I do my best to keep all of my content spoiler-free and rated E for everyone. If you find this podcast enjoyable or helpful, tell a friend and consider giving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. If you have questions or comments, you can send an email to retromopodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Godspeed.